Hey you guys, happy Friday, happy Friday, happy Friday. My same old song every Friday. Happy Friday, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us or joining me right now. Thank you so much for joining me on my show. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. Thank you. And welcome. Welcome to those of you who are here. For those of you who are going to come back and catch the replay, welcome. Thank you so much. My name is Tamara Johnson, and I am the founder of the show. Let's be clear. I am here to, let me back up. So, what I originally created this talk show for was to create a movement where we're changing the view of how society has defined marriage. And that was what, like going on 2 years ago, and God has given me something a little different now. So now I'm speaking more to those who have been divorced and those that are going through divorce and singles, right? So right now we're actually in the middle of a series called Marriage versus Dating. Marriage versus dating. Is it a thin line, right? That's a good question. Is it a thin line? I know for many of us, um, we date like we're married, some of us, right? And so I just thought it was very important. I know it's very important that we have the discussion to talk about those things that, become fine, the lines that become fine. We had one doctor on, the first show was with Dr. Crystal Walker, and she talked about where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line between marriage and being married and dating someone? And I'm not going to give you any of the nuggets that she gave us because I want you to go back and catch the show on either my YouTube channel, Make It Rise, or go back here. I think this is Facebook Live, I think. But on Facebook Live, you guys, you can go back and catch that show. The second one was Committing While Dating, and that was with Dr. Kanisha. And today we have Dr. Richelle, who's going to talk about time spent. How much is too much, right? Is there such thing as too much time? Spending too much time with someone that you're dating. And then what does that look like as it transfers over into marriage? Is there such thing as spending too much time? So I am not going to hold you guys. I sound a little nasally. I've been sleeping with the window open and sweating. It's just been hot, so I'm a little stuffy, but that's all right. I'm committed to the commitment. I'm here, you guys. I'm going to bring my guest on today, Doctor, because this is a series with doctors. So, Dr. Richelle, I'm bringing her in. Hey, sis.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for
I'm
having me.
absolutely. Thank you for being had. I appreciate you coming on. And as I said before I got started, I want to say thank you once again for your yes. And as I always say, you didn't say yes to me. You didn't say yes to you. You said yes to God. And because of that, you are giving yourself permission to be a part of my movement, helping me with this platform and with this series talking about, the thin line between marriage and dating. And I know as a single woman, single unmarried, as a
Mhm.
single woman, it can be, a bit much. That line can be thin. But before I actually jump into the discussion, I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself to the
Mhm.
people.
Oh, thank you so much. I am again super excited to be a part of this conversation. I'm Dr. Richelle McMillan, and I am author of a couple of books. And I just finished writing a book, the series to Behind Closed Doors, Married to the Church, but my wife is a mistress. And so now I am writing a book on why am I still single? And so you think you want to date me. And so I think that, right now this is such a great topic. And I'm coming from a single perspective. I am a divorcee, but a single perspective. And so I work in higher education. I've been in higher education over 10 years now at a university. And just love what I do. I'm a life coach, an author of several books, and do a lot of work in the community. I'm the founder of the Spiritual Sons and Daughter Movement, and I do have the Dr. Rochelle Show as well on YouTube. And so I just love really inspiring and helping. people be the best that they can in the kingdom. I live by three simple mottos: live, love, laugh. That is just something that I have embedded in my children: live, love, laugh. And so that's what we do on this end. We do kingdom, but we live, love, laugh. And it's about souls and changing lives, as much as we can do. So thank you again for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's an honor. It's an honor. You and I sat on a panel before,
Yes.
and so we're accustomed to how the connection. We're accustomed to this right here. So I didn't write any fancy questions or anything
Okay.
like that because you know me, I like to go off the cuff. I
Yeah.
like it to be very natural, right? I don't want it to seem as though we have written a script for
Hmm.
something that is reality, right?
Right.
I talk about I brought this series about because I am a single woman who is um, I'm a single woman, but I know that God created me to be a wife,
Hmm.
right? And so knowing that, that's how I operate. That's what I move in. That's what I show. That's what I display, right? And so I had to tell myself there's certain things that my guy he can't get access to
Hmm.
because we haven't crossed over to that just yet, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so understanding that time spent with a person can be beneficial, and then sometimes it can be a hindrance in the growth of the relationship. You have to be mature enough to understand the difference between what's going to help and what's going to hurt.
Hmm.
What is your take on time spent? Is there such thing as too much time being spent with someone that you're dating, and if so, why?
Well, I have to. I'm coming from a singles perspective, so I do understand where you are at this moment. But I think, again, it goes into where you are and what season you're in
Yeah,
your life,
yeah,
and that kind of sets the tone. The I guess the parable that I'll use is building a house, and in order to build a house, it has to have a foundation,
hmm,
right? And so you don't have everybody build upon your foundation. You do research, you
right,
spend time being very selective in the process. You don't want everybody building something that you're going to live in or have, as some people say, my ever after. And so when it comes to dating and how much time, it depends because, as you know, if you're building a house, sometimes the weather, it rains.
yeah,
Sometimes there is a delay in the materials that come in. And
yeah,
so, but at every stage, you know that you're going to have and get to a finish. You know that
yeah,
there's going to be an end, and you know you have a picture in your mind of what it's going to be. And I think you can relate that to dating because at some phase you have to really look at and spend time to see, is this something that I can build upon?
yeah,
Is this, I got to build a solid foundation so that when the storms comes, when trials and tribulations come, when I'm happy, when I'm sad, is this someone that I can have? I call it the three C's: communicate with. Can I communicate with you on all levels? Is this someone that has cooperation? Are you able to cooperate with me? And then are you able to be committed to where the two shall become one? And the only way that you do that is spending time. I know that I'm hearing after all this data that I've collected is
yeah,
that some people are saying they knew in 3 months. Some people said that they knew in 6 months.
yeah.
I know one of my colleagues got married in 2 weeks, you know,
Wow.
and then some people say 1 year. But now it just depends on the two parties coming
Yeah,
together, and are we able to build a foundation that the storms, it will hold up during the storms, it will hold up during, acquisitions that may come,
yeah,
trials. Will it stand the test of
yeah,
time? And the
That's
only
good.
way that you could do that is spending time. Time belongs to God, not to us, right?
That's good.
I mean, we write in our vision, and we can present what we want to happen, but it all at the end of the day is this God's will for us? And
Yeah.
God can accelerate it
Yeah.
depending on if the two parties are submissive to God's will to build the foundation that will last. And so it takes time for two to become one, because you're looking at personalities, you're looking at, if you have children, that's a whole nother layer.
Yeah.
And sometimes I used to think, I will know in 30 days and 60 days. Now I say, God, only you can put that in my spirit, and the two is becoming one.
Becoming.
We
Yes.
are becoming
Yes.
something. And when it becomes, sometimes it's quick, and sometimes it's slow, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's fast. But
Yeah.
I can't allow outsiders or anybody to build upon my oneness.
That's good.
I can't. Everyone, it's like when you want to get your nails done, you don't go to a gynecologist to get your nails done.
Right.
I mean, you don't go to if you want to get your dental work, you don't go to someone that does massages, right? And so I have to make sure that when I'm building something, I have the key components and people in my life that want to build the foundation.
Yeah.
And what do you think about this party that I'm becoming one with?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we look and we ignore red flags
Yeah.
because we're caught up in timing,
That's it.
and we ignore good godly counsel because we want what we want. We
Yeah.
want a fairy tale, but we
Yeah.
don't want to live the reality of what we're getting into. So I do think that we have to date meaningfully, we have to date purposefully, and date successfully, and we cannot allow man to depict time.
That's good. That's good. I like everything that you said, and you're absolutely right. Well, I'll say this: I agree with it because somebody may be listening and saying, "Nah, I don't agree with what she's saying." So, what I am going to say is that I agree with the things that you've said. Something that really stood out for me was, when you began to talk, you gave the analogy about the house, building a home. When you talk about the solid foundation, we have to consider what our foundation is. What are we building upon, right? And it's so funny. I'm gonna throw myself out there. So the guy that I am dating right now, when I say we started rocking, and it was just like, this is my best friend, bestie, 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 right? But what I learned is that in that we use that as our foundation, being friends first, right? Being able to communicate, as you said, cooperation, right? Commitment. All of that was done as friends. We were that as friends, and so I think it's very important, as you said, to make sure that the foundation is laid properly, right? So that as you begin to build in this house, as you begin to build, you're using the right tools so that you can build and not tear down.
Hmm.
You talk about seasons. Now, there's times where you do need to step back a little bit, right? And
Hmm.
not, let me take that back, not step back, but just say you're spending time every single day. You're seeing each other every single day. I personally don't see anything wrong with that.
Hmm.
Me personally, that's my thought. But there may come a time where a season, as you said, where that everyday, hang out or whatever it is that you're doing may not be necessary. Like right now, we're in a place where we're working. I'm helping him work on something business wise. So seeing each other every day is important. But guess what's coming in that? I'm learning a lot about him. I'm learning a lot about me. How I would handle something, how I handle something, in that situation, how he responds to certain things. We have to go in it looking at it in that way. Especially if you think this is someone that you want to go the long haul with,
Hmm.
right? Um, Spending time with each other will help us get to know each other better. You don't, I personally believe that you don't know the person until you've seen every area of them. Like when they get upset, how do they respond? When they don't have the money that they want, how do they respond? When people don't respond the way they want them to respond, how do they respond, right? Because it's one thing when everybody's happy and we're loving on each other. That's all good. But what is it? How do you act? How do you respond when things aren't going the way that you would like for them to go?
Mhm. Mhm. I think that's all in, and it's the everyday, when you're dating someone and they call it collecting data, but I want to take that a step further. Is this data going to work for me? It is how does this align with preference? Is
Yeah,
this really going to work for me? And we're not saying all of the flaws, but when you get married, it's not going to be a fairy tale. You're going to see that person. You're going to see every facet of that person, when they're happy, when they're sad, when they're sick, how they respond when they go to the grocery store, how do they respond when there is no money,
yeah,
how do they treat you and communicate, when it under pressure, because you're there, do they lash out at you? And these are behavioral types of things, that, and they call them red flags, but I want to look at it as, behavioral types of things that we need to look at to say, is this something that I can build with? Is this
right.
something, is this trigger, is this temperament something that I can build with for forever, forever,
Yeah,
ever, ever, and ever, ever, ever. Is this something that that I can handle, in every season of my life, summer, winter, fall, and spring? Is this someone I can rock with? Is this someone that I can be vulnerable with?
yeah. That's good right there.
Is this someone I can be vulnerable with? Because can I trust you,
Yeah,
with my flaws and my secrets? And will you use them against me,
right.
when we are, and I say you got to fight fair. You can't
Yeah,
go below the belt when we're in arguments. Will you bring my weaknesses up and use those weaknesses, against me? And
yeah,
the one thing is that you really have to cover one another,
yeah,
even in the highs and the lows. I mean, you could be in a relationship and tomorrow lose job or someone gets sick. you know it's the low times that build that foundation in a
for
relationship.
I
It's not the
definitely.
high times, it's the low
It's
times
the low times.
that
Yeah,
bring out the character,
yeah,
the nature, the heartbeat of
right,
that person that you're trying to come in covenant with.
right,
And that sometimes does not happen in 30 days. That sometimes does not happen in 6 months. And
right.
it may not even happen in a
In a
year.
year. I agree. And that's why it's so dangerous for us to put times on, when it should go to another level. When you should be saying I do. I think when we have those numbers set in our head, once we begin to approach those numbers, the pressure, we begin to place pressure not on the individual but on the relationship. We began to apply pressure in areas that we shouldn't, because what it's doing is causing us to miss out on some things that we're not able to see it with a clear view anymore, because all we're concerned about is, okay, in 10 more days it's that year mark is hitting, or the 6 month mark is hitting, or you hear people saying, y'all been together for that long, when are you going to, right? The
Right.
pressures of that. And I like that you said earlier, that you have to push man out. And that's not to say not to allow godly wisdom and counsel. Absolutely, you should at all times. I believe it's very important for you to have that, because when you're inside of something, you don't have the full scope of it. So it
Hmm.
is important for you to take said person around your friends and your family. I believe in that, because they're going to see something. And it doesn't mean because they see it, you have to agree with it, but be available to hear what it is that they're sharing with you, because everyone have a point of view, and our point of views come from our experiences. So I may not have experienced something in a relationship that you have that you'll be able to see in him or you'll be able to see in her that the other person is.
Yeah,
So being available to that is important.
I think too is at the end of the day, whose voice matters to you.
Yeah,
Because when you and two, you cannot, the Bible talks about coveting, and sometimes we go to weddings, we
yeah,
see other people in happy relationships, and we base our
yeah,
relationship, our authentic relationship, based on the timing of someone else's. Now the Bible does decree and declare that if it's, it's better to marry than to burn. But what I'm saying is that you have to keep your flesh under subjection, because we can get ahead of God and get ahead
yeah,
of get and write our own chapters
yeah,
in
yeah,
our lives. And then we get into situations, and the man might, as Adam did, the woman that you gave me, you told us that this was
with
going to
fingers.
be pointing fingers, when we really don't know that person.
Yeah,
And scenarios and situations will allow you to know every facet of that
yeah,
person, to say, is this something that I can really work with? Is
yeah,
this something that I can deal with?
yes,
Because no person is perfect. And it's so good that you sometimes don't have those titles in place so early,
yeah,
because you're like, if I would have knew this a little bit earlier, I may have really went a little bit slow.
right,
But at the end of the day, you do want to marry your best friend, because
yeah,
you want death to death do us part. And
right, right,
so, even though you have good friends, and I have good friends I've been in friendships with for over 16 years, we don't always agree on
right.
things. We may have a falling out, but we always come back together,
Yeah, because of the friendship, and
because
it's
it's
so
the
it's so clear.
foundation, the
Yeah,
trust, the
yep,
respect, the
right.
coverage, the protection has
Yes,
already been built, because we spent time building that foundation, and
right.
and making those, and say, I always got your back. And I think that is something, the true essence of anything has to be tried. It,
Yeah,
it, it,
absolutely.
it has to be tried by fire. It
Yeah,
has to be tried by, because as we look at some of these celebrity marriages, and once they get married, everything goes haywire.
yeah.
And then they don't know how to handle it, and the first thing that comes up is, I want a divorce. But
Mhm.
we, in your friendship, you have got to really establish boundaries, and
Yeah,
establish those things that, the D word will never enter into our covenant. The D word for divorce.
absolutely.
This is where we build this at in friendship. We made a covenant to
Yeah,
one another,
that's right.
and it starts even before you meet that person. You come in covenant. Like, the Lord dealt with me and had me make a chest. So I have a chest prepared for whoever I'm going to be in covenant with. And these are some of the things that I wrote and said, are you in agreement with this covenant? That
Mm.
this is not an option for us.
Yeah, I
you,
like that.
you
I
know
like
this is, but I've done the work before the person comes,
absolutely.
because we man and woman have to do the work before the person comes,
Yeah,
and then we can say, even in this friendship, we will not break this covenant that we
yeah,
had. Are we going in the right direction
yeah,
in
yeah.
this covenant friendship? Because I don't have time to waste time, energy, and oil on.
Yes.
So, which direction are we going?
Right.
Okay. And we're going to ask God to be our compass, and you
Yes.
to be the leader in
Yeah,
this relationship to get us to our destination.
that's
And I
good.
think having that in your friendship, to be
Yeah,
like, can I be real with you? Someone that could handle the realness of you,
yeah, yeah.
the person that doesn't have makeup on, the
Right.
person that, that the natural side of you,
Yes.
that the world will never see in the
Right.
secret
That's
chambers. Yeah.
what you need with the person that you are walking with, the person that
Mhm.
you are building with. I feel like if you cannot be vulnerable, if you cannot be the true you, If you cannot remove all of the stuff and just give who you are to the person that you're building with, you've already you've already messed up the relationship, right?
Mhm.
Because too often we go in and you meet the person, you may be made up, hair done, makeup on, dressed nice and all of those things when you met the person, and then you want to keep that same energy, but he or she need to see the naked you, not literally, but they need to see the naked you. What are your flaws? Because as you stated, no one is perfect. So what are those things that make you feel a little insecure? When we are able to get to a point where we can talk to that person about those things, and as you said, and it's not used against us when we're having a disagreement. It's not being brought back up because now you are removing the trust. I can't trust you with my heart. I can't trust you with my flaws. I can't trust you, so I'm not going to give you all of me.
Mhm.
And we have to be careful with that. We talk about the vows. You talk about giving. You don't really know a person until you know them through the fire. So when we do premarital counseling or when we read the vows, there's a side that makes us smile, and then there's a side that makes us, like clutch our invisible pearls, right? And oftentimes when I say that when I get into the zone of doing premarital counseling, I'm definitely gonna lay heavy on those points that make you want to clutch your invisible pearls. And I say that because those are the things that we try to get away from, right?
Mhm.
We don't
Mhm.
want, of course, we don't want to encounter them, right? But reality is, every day is not going to be peaches and cream. There are going to be some days where you have to support in an area that you don't want to support in. There are going to
Mhm.
be days where you have to love in an area where you don't want to love in. And when we are under the fire, when we're in those places in our relationships, those are the times to teach the person who you really are, your integrity, your morals, right? How you support, how you listen, not only talk, because we're so quick to try and talk over, because especially women, we're helpers, right? So we want to help, but we're not listening. And many times just being quiet and listening is the help, right?
Mhm.
Many times just literally saying, I got you. What do you need from me? How can I serve the need, right?
Mhm.
We have been already gifted the oil for our person.
Mhm.
So using that oil in the right area of their lives, like if you need me to love on you, if you need me to be a little bit more affectionate with you, the oil used there is not going to work the same way it would be used by just having listening to you when you come home from work and you have some complaints.
Mhm.
Different types of oils, right? And I say this all the time. Everything that we need is in us or right at our fingertips.
Mhm.
Sometimes the things that are in us, we don't know how to use them properly, and so we are sabotaging the relationship because we are being still long enough to hear God's direction and instruction on where to use the tools or the keys, how to unlock this door, how to shut this door. There's some doors that need to be shut. There's some rooms in that house that you were talking about that need to be just demolished, removed completely as a result of maybe something that occurred in childhood, maybe something that occurred in previous relationships. We have to get to a point in understanding that sometimes you are the healing agent, right?
Mhm.
Something that who you are, just who you are, not what you do or what you give, but who you are can sometimes help someone heal in an area that they've been broken.
Yeah.
And we're so quick to try and do the stuff, be the stuff. Just be.
And I think but we can't be something when we don't know who we are.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know, and sometimes, why am I still single? The thing that we need to look at and talking about timing is that you need to really understand what position you play in that partner's life. If I can't even pray, if I can't pick that person up in the spirit, if I don't have my own individual relationship
Yeah.
with God, then how can I even be a good friend? How can I even be courted appropriately if I'm allowing my past to confine my future. So
Yeah.
if I can't be courted effectively, I can't date effectively, I can't enter into a friendship, I can't enter into a commitment, I can't enter into a relationship, I can't enter into a marriage if I don't know who I am.
That's
And the
first and
only
foremost.
right and the only way that I'm able to understand who I am and whose I am is spending time in God's presence through
Yeah.
prayer, through good counsel,
Yeah.
making sure that I've dealt with my stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't want to deal with our stuff. We want to deal with our stuff when we get in these friendships. We want
Yeah.
to deal with our stuff when we get in these covenants. We want to deal with our stuff when we get in these relationships.
Yep.
And no, that's too late.
Yes.
Sometimes when we go to premarital counseling, that's too late. We need to go into pre-dating counseling.
That part.
Pre-dating counseling to
Yeah.
really deal with our stuff, to
Yeah.
make sure that we are the best version of
Of
who we
ourselves.
need to be in a friendship, in dating,
Absolutely.
because that's why we get so many representatives because they don't know who they are. They're
Absolutely.
trying to become what that person wants them to be in that
Instead of being
friendship,
who they
and
are.
that's too late. And then the
Yeah.
real them shows up when you say I do, and you're like, I don't
Yeah.
even know who you are.
That's good. That's good.
So we really have to do the work and find people, and I always say sometimes you need a licensed counselor and you need to have the godly counsel,
Yeah.
because sometimes what the godly counsel doesn't pick up, the licensed counsels will do the work to go back to your background, to
Yeah.
your childhood. How was you raised? What's your relationship like with your
Yeah.
parents, with your father, with your children?
Yeah.
Why do you feel like what has been the patterns? And sometimes, we don't talk about patterns. What is your patterns in friendship? Sometimes we abort the friendship when it gets hot and heavy, when
That's
we
good.
can't take the pressure.
Yeah.
And if you know this in the friendship at the base of the baseline of it, then you know how to pray.
Yeah.
You know how to deal with that. But some things God will reveal to you
Yeah.
prior, even about yourself. I
That's
spent a lot of time in the last 2 to 3 years, 3 years, working on myself, working on what do I like to do. I
yeah.
can't be what the church wants me to be. I need to be what God has commissioned me to be. And now that I'm entering into this phase of dating, then I can be the wife, the friend, the partner, the lover. I
Right.
can fill so many roles because
Right.
I'm secure in who God called me to be. I know without a shadow of a doubt, I don't need this man to make me. I will take the identity, but
Yeah.
I know who I am, and only God can show me that I'm wonderfully and fearfully made.
That's right. That's right.
But that's because
Right.
I spent time
Yeah.
working on who God called me to do, because I can't afford to lose my identity in my friendship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That
that's
happens so
key.
often.
Hmm.
Yeah. That happens so too often actually, where we go in trying to please the other person by figuring out what they like and what they don't like, and so then we try to fit the mold of that. But like you said, when you go in knowing who you are and whose you are, you step in this thing saying, I am secure in this, right? I know what I like, I know what I don't like, right? And you can say that boldly. I talk about the mirror ministry often. We have to take time looking in the mirror and stop looking out of the window at other
Hmm.
people and judging them and creating things for them, but looking in the mirror at ourselves and saying, what is it about me that I need to do more of? What is it about me that I need to do less of? Who am I? Who was I created to be? As a divorcee as well, I know that there are many times that I set self to the side or on the shelf, right? Because I wasn't told or taught that I could be an individual, yet
Hmm.
still be a mother, still be a wife, but still have my own identity,
Identity.
right?
Hmm.
And so because I wasn't taught that, I found myself being, which I'm already a nurturer, I already want to serve the need of my king. That's a natural thing for me. But that was attached to some insecurities. That was attached to some things I just didn't know. Right. And like you said, over the past, 4 years for me, I've learned so much about myself that I didn't know. And I am the freest
Yeah.
today than I've ever been. And I say often too, like, not only the person I'm dating, my kids, my family members, my coworkers, people that I coach, you are getting the best version of me,
Version.
right?
Yeah.
I am getting the best version of me. And that is an amazing feeling when you can step outside of what you used to look like and see yourself for what God said, who God said you really are, right? And operate in that thing. And sometimes it can be a little scary because it's bigger than you. It's bigger than what you would have even thought for yourself. But if
Mhm.
he said, if he gave it to you, then he's giving you the tools and the people that are going to come and help you perfect that thing, or line up, be in alignment with it. So we definitely have to know who we are before stepping into a relationship. But going back into the topic of time spending, when we do all of those things, when we do spend time with the person, now we're able to be that teacher, right? Let me teach you who I am because I know who I am, and let me be available to learn who you are, right? Because I'm hoping you know who you are. And when we become teachers and students in friendship first, as we begin to develop, and now you're phasing into something else outside of just friendship, you don't remove the friendship, you add to the
To
friendship.
it. Mhm.
You add to the friendship. And so the time that you're spending with that person, it may be a lot, but guess what? You're learning and you're developing, you're building, you're creating. Because what I created in past relationships, I got to get rid of that. I can't bring any, when I say any, you cannot bring any of that into a new relationship. Now, there may be some things that look familiar, but that's a different person, right? And so their reasoning for doing certain things, why it was derived, all of that is going to be completely different. And so we have to go in as a new person with that person. But as you said, knowing who we are is step number one. Step
Mhm.
number one is knowing who you are as an individual and not releasing who you are just so that you can become who he or she wants you to be once you begin to, date or go into this relationship.
Right, and I think too it and date or have friendship purposefully. I think that, be adaptable to change, because when you are trying to learn a person, you, there comes some adaptability. You have to be flexible and
Yeah,
cooperative, because even though we know who we are, that doesn't mean that we're right all the time either.
that's it.
There has to be some flexibility in knowing, and also, what I was thinking is about, sometimes we try to change the trajectory of the person that we're trying to come in covenant with, and we try to go in because we received, and I think information, we received a wealth of information. There's so much information out there about dating, but then we have to curtail that to the person that we're coming in covenant with, because that
Yeah.
may not fit that scenario, right?
Yes.
And sometimes we are hoarders of information, that
Ooh,
sometimes we don't know how to decipher, and and spit out the bone, as they say. We don't know how to what because we're trying to morph it into all this information, that we're missing the essence and the meaning,
yeah.
and the heartbeat of getting to know that person. We're missing the
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah. The
Because we're
journey.
trying to map out every detail. This is not a vacation, where we have to, map out every details. Some
Yeah.
things just needs to flow.
Yes. That's it.
Some things don't need, and it just falls into place. We try, sometimes we as women, we want to be in control of every facet of the relationship.
Yes.
And when you submit that relationship to God, every detail, every date, every phone call, you remove, the Lord dealt with me, remove all expectations,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
throw it out the window,
Right.
throw your list out the window,
Right.
throw
Yes.
throw all this out,
Yeah.
and let me download to you
Yeah.
the very essence of the chapter and the destination.
The list.
And and when I begin to do, now, do I have a list? I have things on there, but at the end of the day, I kind of said, you know what, God, yet not my will,
But your will.
but your will be done. And
Yeah.
I submit to every line upon line, everything that you have mapped out for me. I submit to it. And it may not be according to this list. It may not be according to all this wealth of information that I received. Because if you look in the Bible, everyone's healing is different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eh, when you look at relationships, the relationships in the Bible are different.
Yes. Yes.
But at the end of the day, they got the victory.
They got the victory. Yeah, absolutely. And we hear that term, relationship goals, right? People go on social media and they see things and they say, I want that. But not once did they recognize or see what that couple may have had to go through in order to get there, right? So we can say relationship goals all day, but are we understanding that it's going to take in that journey, in the journey of getting there, there's going to be some work that has to be done. Now, do you have the strength to do the work, right? And everybody's work look different. We can all have goals. That's easy. That's the easy part. I have a
Right.
goal. That's the easy part. The work that it's going to take to reach the goal is what's important, right? And what are you committing to? What are you committed to? Because as you said earlier, you were talking about red flags. I like to say that sometimes things do appear as a red flag, but it's only red until you explain your point, your color of the flag. It's only red, and then are they available to hear your point in that? Are they available to adjust? Are they available to shift? Right? And it's not asking someone to change who they are. We're not asking that ever. But if you want a relationship to be in alignment, to work, it's inevitable. You're going to have to do some things a little different than you may have done them before. Now, this doesn't say to do things that are going to make you question who you are, your morals, and your integrity. None of that. But you may like to get to the corner, on this side of the street, and he may say, "Well, I enjoy walking on that side of the street.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
let's go to this side. We're going to the same place. So we can have a same goal, the end goal, but we all have different ways of getting there, right? You're where? What state are you in?
I'm in Florida.
You're in Florida. I'm in California, and we may say, "Hey, sis, let's meet up in Mexico." The goal is to meet up in Mexico,
Mexico.
but we are going to get there by two different ways, right?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
may drive. You have to fly. Does that make sense?
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you're saying is so key because, one thing I was just jotting down so I won't lose my thought is that sometimes we don't always have to have the right say, the final say in the conversation. You know how we as women, we always want to have the last say,
yes.
but sometimes we miss the details
Mm-hmm.
of the journey.
Yeah.
We miss hearing and listening to what the other person is trying to convey,
Yeah.
because as you said, our destination is the same.
Yeah.
We're saying the same thing, but the message and the tone that we're saying it in is different.
Yeah.
And the only way that we're able to decipher is that we have to really have effective listening skills,
Yeah. Yeah.
and slow down and say, God, help me to hear what
Yeah.
this person is trying to convey in a heated, I call it a fierce conversation. What are you trying to say? And help me to convey it, so that, I mean, help me to understand it. Because, sometimes, as we know, sometimes people don't communicate effectively, and the one thing they didn't say was the missing piece of helping us to understand it. So that is
Absolutely.
something too that we really have to understand. The key to a healthy friendship, wherever you are in the spectrum, is communication.
Absolutely. Effective communication. Absolutely.
Effective communications, even when you have fierce conversations.
Yeah.
If we can sit and communicate, and not shut down, and
Mhm.
how to make sure that we understand. And the only way you're going to understand triggers and behaviors is spending
Right.
time, or, Lord, show me how,
Yeah.
tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Don't come combative. Tell me what you're thinking. Or,
Right.
Holy Spirit, reveal to me
Yeah.
what this person is thinking. Reveal
Yeah.
what is their body language. Studying body
Right.
language. And
That's a form
sometimes
of
we
communication.
right, and sometimes we can misinterpret body language. Sometimes I have been misread, because most of the time, they think, oh, I'm hard to read. No, I'm just thinking, and I'm listening to you, and I'm listening to God.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
can't be speaking when I'm trying to listen,
No.
so that I can communicate in a way that it will be received by the person. And
Yeah.
and the only way I can do that is I have to listen.
You have to listen. Yeah.
Mhm.
You have to listen and not and know his voice, right?
Yes.
Because with emotions and the enemy and God, like all these things going on, we can misinterpret, we can hear the wrong thing, and then that means we're probably going to do the wrong thing, right?
Correct.
So knowing his voice, I share a lot when we meet someone and they give us their phone number, or we give them our phone number, and they call us from a number that's not programmed in our phone. One of the things we're going to say is, who is this, right? Okay, we talk. They call maybe the following week from another phone number. Again, because we haven't talked, I don't know the voice. The question is, who am I speaking to?
Who are you?
It's
Mhm.
not until I talk to that person time and time and time again where I get to know his voice. Doesn't matter where he calls from, I'll know who he is. And God wants us to be that same way with knowing his voice. So the only way that we'll know his voice is by talking to him daily, right?
Mhm.
So if when
Mhm.
we're dating someone, we need to go to God and ask, how do I be this person's friend? How do I effect, what is the proper effective communication language for this person, right? Because oftentimes we're trying to give what we want, and that's not what they need. That's not the need of theirs. So I'm trying to show you how to, love me, or I'm trying to show you how to communicate with me, but I'm not communicating with you properly. So we have to be able to say, okay, God, show me, right? Teach me. And when you do have those, as you say, those fierce conversations, I'd recommend, especially if you're a believer, inviting the Holy Spirit in.
Mhm.
Let there be three parties in this room when we have this conversation. And what I found is that if you have the respect of the Holy Spirit, if you respect the Holy Spirit, you're going to think before you speak, right? You're going to think. You're going to try and understand a better way of communicating, a better way of delivering, because the message is the message, but many times it get lost in how we deliver it.
Yeah, I think that is very key. And I think also, instead of, we need to understand and do a set of our love language. We have love language, but we also need to understand what is our communication language.
Yeah, yeah,
What is our romantic language? Like, what language do we operate in? And also learning a lot about our pet peeves, because sometimes if we don't know, our pet peeves and our own red flags, we can look at that and say that this is this other person's, or point the blame, I call it the blame game, on someone else, when these are really our problems. The
let me have you pause really fast. Don't lose your train of thought. I like that you said our red flags. See, we talk about red flags so often, but we're putting them off on the other person. We come with red flags as well.
Mhm.
We come with things that they don't like, that they don't agree with, right? We come with things that we have to shift, that we have to change, that we have to address, right? So again, back to the thinking that our way of thinking, our way of doing, our way of wanting is the right way is not necessarily the case all the time.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, one thing about the Holy Spirit is that the Holy Spirit will reveal to us who we are in His presence and in prayer and in fasting. And we can allow the Holy Spirit to be our coach and
Yeah,
our guide,
yes.
in understanding who we are and whose we are. Because when we understand that we are the favor and the flavor, I call favor and
I like
flavor,
it. I like it.
we are the favor and the flavor of a man, a good man. And once we know that the we're the favor, that is, and only God can show you who you are.
Yeah,
And then God begins to, um tear us down to build us back up,
yeah.
because it's just like a job performance. When I evaluate my team, I always tell them their strengths and their weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
And then I give them a map out a plan to say, and this is how you can improve in
Yeah,
by the next time you have your evaluation. And God does the same thing with us.
yeah,
He says, I forgive you for I'm turning your mistakes into miracles.
yeah,
But in order for you to stay and obtain the miracle, then these are the steps. And the steps are outlined through the word of God.
yeah, yeah,
And so then you become the flavor of who you're in your friendships.
yeah,
My friends who I've been in friends with love every facet of who I am. Why? Because they understand my worth and my value in
yeah,
their lives and in the kingdom. Oh
yeah,
God. When you understand your worth and your value, you will not settle or allow someone to take away or discount you at a lower rate.
Mm, that's good. Yeah,
I'm not for sale at that price.
yeah,
God gave up his life.
yeah,
That price has already been paid on the cross for me.
yeah,
So don't discount
yeah,
my worth, my value. When God said, I have favor with God and man in the earth.
yeah,
And so once we go into any friendship, all of your friends know your worth.
yeah,
They
absolutely.
love they love your flaws, they love your weaknesses, and one thing about it, they gonna have your back. They gonna fight for you. They gonna rock with you. They gonna cover you when you're
Absolutely.
not in their presence. They
Yes,
still got your back.
yes. Those are real friends.
But that's what you want in a friendship, in a healthy relationship. If that relationship or friendship is starting toxic and full of self-sabotage and deception, that might not be the covenant that God wants you to have.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
that means that you have lost your worth, and you
yeah,
put your worth, in the hands of this friend.
yeah. That's
And
good.
and your friends voice should never or supersede God's voice. Never,
Never, never,
never.
never. And I know sometimes it seemed like it could be easy because we want what we want, but we have to have enough discipline to know that His ways are not our ways, and He is never going to lead us anywhere that is not beneficial for us, right? And sometimes those things don't feel good. But
Mm-mm.
when we have that relationship, we know, oh, this is God. This I'm right where I'm supposed to be. You know?
Mhm.
So being in relationship, building relationship, spending time with the person, learning who they are, who they aren't, and bigger than that, learning who you are and
That's
who
it.
you aren't.
That's the key. Who you are and who you are not and will
I
never
can think,
be.
right. I can think all of these things about myself, but it's not until I'm put in position to be those things,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Where I
Mhm.
learn, like, wow, I thought I would. Because we're quick to say, if I were you, or I would do this, until we get in position to do it or not. And many
Mhm.
times it's not. And many
Mhm.
times, we do, but that's a good gauge for you to learn who you are right there.
Mhm. And
So
be careful about what we say we won't and we will not do because
be
love
very
covers a
careful.
multitude of sin.
Woo! Indeed, indeed. That's good. So, Doc, if you had to leave the people with anything in regards to, time spent, how much is too much, or is it too much? If you had
Mhm.
to leave something, what would you say?
I think the thing, and great conversation tonight, I think the essence of it is let God map out your journey and your experience. Um, don't allow outside forces to depict how much time is too much time or not enough time.
That's good.
In order for you to be a wife for life or a husband for life, it takes time
Yeah,
to morph something beautiful, something kingdom oriented, and something that will last. And as it, think about building a house, think about, having a baby, think about also just, graduation and getting to graduation. It takes time, it takes work, and we can map it out for you. We can set a plan for
yeah,
you. But if
yeah.
you don't put the work in there, you'll still be stuck in past experiences.
I love it.
So enjoy the journey. Enjoy the
The,
journey.
the time. Yeah,
Enjoy the time. Time is so precious. Enjoy why can I just enjoy this moment without putting a print on it of this is when it needs to happen? It everything all what is it? All things work together for
for
the
the good.
good
Yeah,
of them that love God. All things.
all of it.
Every asset, every facet of our life, it works together. And
Yes,
and so but we have to allow God to map out the coming together.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for those words. I just thought, again, I thought that this discussion was very important, that it is very important because, we just don't know, especially as singles. We're trying to figure this thing out,
Yeah.
and, trying to be available to what God is saying that we need in our lives. And, oftentimes, as you just said, we listen to the people and they say we shouldn't do this and we should do that. I think one of the most important things that you left us with is not allowing man to put a time stamp on anything that you do. If you want to spend time with your person, every day, all day, then so be it. As long as it doesn't distract you from giving God what He needs,
That's
right?
right.
And whatever that looks like, whether it be in your business, because everything that you do should be done as if you're doing it unto the Lord. So spending time with that person should be done as if you're doing it unto the Lord, right?
Mhm,
So the
mhm.
discussions that are had, and the laughs, and you don't always have to be deep.
No.
Have fun.
Yeah, but what's wrong with having fun while dating? What see
Nothing.
sometimes we allow and we allow people to put unrealistic expectations on every
Mm-mm.
area of our life that
Mm-mm.
that we're missing the funness of building, and we're missing even when you're building a house, you take pictures of every facet of that house and you show it. And then they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't know you was building the house." Yeah, I've been doing this the whole time. And so, as
Yeah.
I always say, people can't ruin anything that they don't know about. Allow yourself time to
Yeah.
build a solid foundation, and
Yeah.
then you do it privately, and then allow God to show you when to make it publicly.
That's good. I did that. Look.
I see. Look, the evidence is written now. The manifestation is coming
Listen,
now. We see it.
girl, listen, I love it. I love it. So I really appreciate you being here tonight. I'm a little under the weather,
You did
but I
wonderful.
thank you. I pushed through this thing because I think it's important for me to stay committed to what I had told God that I was going to do, and and just get these messages out. You know, these are things that we don't talk about every single day because we haven't been given permission to just have real, raw, transparent, open conversation and discussion about stuff that we are actually going through on a daily basis. Why not talk about it? Why not talk about the things that come with being divorced? Why not
Right.
talk about the things that come with being single, the things that come with being married, right? There's a lot to it. It's not just what we see on paper. There's a lot of missing pieces that we aren't willing to talk about or someone didn't give us permission to talk about. And so
Mhm.
here on Let's Be Clear, I give everyone permission to talk about whatever it is that they feel is going to positively affect them or negatively affect them. I don't want to stay only under the umbrella of the good stuff. Let's talk about those hard things, right? I want to challenge you to be a better you once you click off of this broadcast. You know, I want it to
Mhm.
be something that is life changing and not just something you go and you listen to for 45 minutes to an hour and then it's on to the next. No, I want you to think about this when you experience something tomorrow, like, dang, I remember Dr. Richelle said, or let me pull my notes up because Tam said, you know, and
Right.
so that's why this is like my baby, you know. I don't take it for granted that God has given me this platform to speak to his people, you know.
Mhm.
So I have to be really mindful of what it is that I'm sharing. And so I have people such as you that says, I got you, girl. I'm coming on to help you push the vision. And so I say, thank you. I
Amen.
love you. Is there
Thank
anything
you. I
else
love
that
you.
you want to say?
No, thank you so much again for having me. And I'm just excited about what God is going to do in your life, even with this. And just let me know if you need me again.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, to my viewers, thank you all for coming on. Thank you for those who are coming back for the replay. We appreciate you. Leave your comments, share, like, whatever it is that you feel like you need to do. Leave your comments and we will go back and respond. But thank you. I hope that something
Thank
was
you.
said or shared that is going to assist you moving forward. Have a good one, and you guys, let's be clear.
Bye bye.